At this time, I would like to introduce Dr. Carol Scroggins. Okay. Yeah, you're on.
Good morning.
You have to use this.
Oh,
You can take it out if you want.
no,
That would
No.
be easier.
no,
No. No.
no, it wouldn't be easier. Happy Father's Day for all of our fathers out there. My presentation this morning has to do with what I've learned from Unity, being a Unity member. And I've always felt like I didn't really fit into my environment. As a child, I often wondered why people did the things they did. And I had a very domineering terrorist grandfather who's felt like the only interpretation of the world was his. And if you didn't fit into his, there was something wrong with you and God didn't love you. So, and the usual things that girls were told they had to aspire to, I didn't really want to do. You know, things like get married, have kids, keep house, that kind of thing. And it wasn't even really important for girls to go to school. As long as you could read a cookbook and, take care of babies, that seemed to be enough. And of course, you had to read the Bible, so you had to have enough literacy to do that. But everything else, and I'm thinking, there needs to be more to life than that. In other words, there were other messages that were in conflict with that, like movies and books. And I'm one of the few students to have ever graduated from my school who actually read every book in the library. Now you might think, well, that's a massive achievement. There were only 600 books in the library when I was a student there. But I read them all, including the encyclopedias. Earned me a nickname. You can guess what it was. Bookworm?
Bookworm.
Okay. Yeah. So, what did I do? I got married. I had kids. Okay. I have no living children, so you can guess how those stories ended. My first child died. Amanda was her name. And it was her passing that pushed me on my quest to find better answers and deeper answers and answers that were outside of this very narrow, very narrow view of the world. And since that quest began, I have discovered lots of things. But eventually I wound up at Unity. And I wound up at Unity because of Jim Jackson. And many of you may remember him. Jim was doing a series of classes on the Essenes. And I met him in a social context. It wasn't a churchy kind of thing, but he was handing out little flyers about his series of lectures on the Essenes. Now, at the time, I had absolutely no interest in the Essenes. I had no interest in Christianity. I had no interest in, any of it. But for some mysterious reason, I went to Jim's first lecture, and then I went to there were about 5 or 6 that he did. And he introduced me to Shirley Hart, who was doing the ministry for Unity at the time. And I started coming to Shirley's lessons, and I've been coming ever since. So it's like, okay, what's that about? So here are the 10 things that I've learned as being a member of Unity. 1, I'm responsible for my own happiness. Now, that was a shocker, and I kind of resisted that for a little bit, and then it kind of begun to make sense. The key to happiness is in my own hands, and being myself is the best gift I can bring to the world. That was another shocker, but guess what, boys and girls? Here I am. Number 2, seize the present moment. Everything is now. Everything is about the right this second. There are many things that I still want to do and be, but being in the now is the most important. Number 3, I'm a spiritual being. We are all spiritual beings living in a physical body, but we're capable of doing many, many things. My thoughts create my reality. Thoughts are the main source of my suffering, but my thoughts do not define me, and I don't need to fight them. All I need to do is just let them come and go. There's healing power in forgiveness. It can heal the soul and brighten up your life. Letting go of the past and the pain I've been keeping inside my heart has been a liberating experience, even for grandfather. 6, we complete ourselves. We don't really need anyone else to do that for us. We need to be able to meet our own needs. Then we attract people who are going to help us along that journey. Stop judging. In order to be kind and be myself, I need to do that without judgment of others, even grandfather. 8, gratitude, the importance of gratitude. And I think that's probably the leading lesson, that to be grateful is probably the best prayer we can utter. Thank you. I appreciate those kinds of words. Be grateful for the big and the small. And sometimes to be grateful for the things that don't happen or didn't happen. You know, those are important lessons to remember. Number 9, the only thing I need to know is occurring now. All of the things that I've learned in the past are cumulative, and it adds to what I can do and act on now. And this is where I need to be right now at this point in the universe. And number 10, I can change the world. I can change the world by changing myself, by being present to those around me. And I've learned through being a member of Unity and through my studies that all these things are universal truths, that all faiths talk about these things in one way or another, with one language or another. Not everyone is aware of these universal truths, but that does not change their essence. Being aware of these things and by practicing them, I live my life with grace. And people say, how do you do that? And I can then tell them. I'm discovering my life's purpose, my mission, and my higher calling. I learned that I facilitate others, I inspire others, and I heal others. So everything has more clarity. And I have heard all of these lessons spoken to me in many different forms through Jim, Shirley, Press, Candy, Joanne, Celia, and others. I am filled with joy most of the time, and I found the magic that I never thought existed. And according to my grandfather, it didn't exist. Numerous times throughout my membership here, I've been inspired by others and touched by other Unity members. And I think I have done the same by sharing my insights and experiences. The world is filled with brilliant minds and amazing, beautiful souls, and I've met many of them here. So, I found that unity is one of the places where minds and souls get together and share their insights and their perception of the beauty of the world. And I appreciate that. So thank you. And now we're going to hear from Sara.
Come on, Sara. Come on. Sara is an agricultural vet. She takes.
I'm a plant doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it's called. I was charged to speak about why I'm in unity and why I serve. Being a science geek, the traditional view of God just had no fit in my worldview. It wasn't until Star Wars came out and I was introduced to the Force that spirituality started to creep back into my life. In the movie, Obi-Wan says, well, the Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Jedi Master Yoda, describing the Force to Luke, said, for my ally is the Force, and a beautiful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Well, this idea of a forceful energy that's part of everything and in everyone and connected us all just really spoke to me. I didn't really know what that was at the time, and I had no idea that the creator, George Lucas, was a science of mind person. So that's where it all came from. But that really just spoke to me. I was in college when I heard that, and I just had a fascination with a book called 2150 AD by Thea Alexander, which is a science fiction book that had some of these interesting new spiritual ideas in it. The author actually came to my college and spoke, and I was hooked. That book, these ideas from Star Wars, got me thinking about spirituality instead of religion. My mom had taken a class on spiritual economics by Eric Butterworth at a local Unity church. She found that path through Al-Anon, and that program got her going into a spiritual path again in her life. So when I moved to Fresno and wanted to get into the community, I thought about looking into the Unity Church here. Through the Unity teachings, I started to explore and redefine my concepts of God. I needed a concept of God that would fit my worldview. The God I was introduced to as a child just wasn't going to cut it. Ellen Davenport, in her new book, The 5 Principles, as many of you have probably read, or should if you're in Unity, she describes a God for grown-ups. She says, the creative force behind sweeping galaxies and infinitesimal life forms, of bewildering fractal patterns and perfect seasonal cycles, of mind-blowing beauty and pure potential. The oak tree and the acorn, the child and the microscopic twist of DNA. God is far outside the human pattern of thinking, and any limits to God are our own. Now that was a worldview of God that I could fit into my worldview. Out of all the Unity principles, the third is my favorite. Human beings create their experiences by their activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. This idea seems to be popping up everywhere, from The Secret to the law of attraction. It just seems to be everywhere you see these days. But it is also not new. As the Buddha said 2,500 years ago, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him, like a shadow that never leaves him. The idea that I have some control in this whole life unfoldment thing gives me much comfort, more than some God up there somewhere looking down and dishing out judgment. The 5 principles provide steps to lead us from an ego to soul, from living unconsciously to living in the awareness of truth. Truth is the spiritual law. It is creation at our service. It It is a spiritual law, and a law, just like the law of gravity or the law of thermodynamics, it works whether you believe it or not. It is underlying everything. Our goal is to figure out how to make that law work for us. Our work is to learn how to wield our spiritual tools into the human experience. The first 4 principles constitutes a handy checklist before taking action. Number 1, do I affirm divine intelligence and love in this situation? Number 2, do I remember my own divinity and that of the others involved? Number 3, do I take responsibility for attracting this situation into my experience and know that its outcome for me will match my thoughts and feelings about it? And number 4, have I aligned myself with God, the universe, the good, and received guidance before I act? Focusing on spiritual laws that say you have some control in what is happening to you. You are a part of the equation, and you can be part of how changing your life unfolds is what appeals to me about unity. Unity has given me a path to follow and the tools to use along that path. Most of my journey through unity has been learning how to make these principles work and how to put them in practice. Now, why do I serve? The 5th principle, as we teach to the kids, says, I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. In Ellen's book, she says, what often happens is that people who are living in principle notice their cups overflowing and want to give from their abundance. They do not take action as much as they provide service. They see what needs to be done and begin to do it, often unnoticed and unsung. They are not out to right the wrongs or change the system as much as to pitch in to do what they can to help an imperfect world. This happens naturally when we see the oneness in all beings, when we know ourselves to be expressions of spirit, when we are confident of attracting whatever we need, and when we are in conscious contact with the divine. In other words, when we are living the first 4 principles, service is the next natural step. We are never an island unto ourselves, and we cannot behave as if we are. Service is not subservience, nor a chore to be dispatched. It is the divine in us touching the divine in others. Belief in God was never modeled by the adults in my life, so it really wasn't something that took hold of me growing up. Church was something you went to on Sundays so Mom and Dad could have the morning off. When my siblings and I got to junior high and we no longer lived close enough for us to walk ourselves to church, we just stopped going. So when the trials and tribulations of adolescence came down upon me, I had no foundation on how to cope. My service through teaching the children is out of knowing that if I had had these concepts when I was a teen, my life would have been a whole lot different. My journey could have been smoother. Think about it. If you had known as a young person that you were a divine child of God, that the image of God you were created out of was that of a co-creator of your world, that you could co-create with your thoughts, feelings, words, and deeds to bring things into your life that would make you feel the love and acceptance you learned. If you knew these things, how much difference would it have made? I serve with the youth because I believe all children should know these spiritual laws and how to make them work. We try to teach these principles in everything we do. We are not there to babysit. Myrtle Fillmore said, our mission is not to entertain children, but to call them out. To be always entertained is to be dwarfed and dependent. To be called out is to follow the harmonious law of the soul's unfoldment. Who meddles with the rosebud? What fingers are deft enough to pry open that marvel of folded beauty? We are wise enough to leave it alone and follow the glad law of its own unfolding. But of our children, have we dealt as wisely with these buds of marvelous possibilities? Have we always remembered that they too must quicken and unfold through an innate law of their own genius? I strive to give these basic concepts to the kids and let them use their own co-creativeness with the divine. Hopefully, they will have a better foundation on which to build than I did. My service on the board is because if there's no board, Unity Fresno will not continue. And we would not have this place, this community, to help us all learn, do, and give through living these truths that we know. Let me close with a Bible verse. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Philippians chapter 4, verse 9. Let's close with a prayer. We close our eyes and let the divine presence flow through us as we ask, what is mine to do? How am I to serve? I have come to this human experience not just for myself but for others, and I stand ready to share God's love with them. That love expresses through me and as me. I make myself ready. I ask for my perfect place of service. I live the truth, knowing that God is all, that I am God, and we are co-creators, and that I am never separate from divine radiance. I let my light shine to illuminate those in the darkness. I let my heart expand for those who need love. I give as it has been given to me, and I am grateful for all of us. Amen, and so it is. Amen.